I've always struggled with drawing feet, and I never knew what I was doing wrong until I saw that duck. Yes, that's a duck, but if you pay attention, this is also a foot. This duck changed the way I draw feet, and I'm going to show you how to turn this duck into a foot, but that is not enough. I'm also going to show you how I used 3 amazing tutorials to draw the feet that I always wanted to draw. Because even though I've drawn countless picture books, drawing feet has always been hard for me. And even if Rob Liefeld can get away with not drawing feet, we can't. So let's talk about this duck. I found this quick tutorial by No Concept on Twitter and I just fell in love with it. This is the kind of tutorials that I really like, especially for feet. A lot of feet lessons try to explain the structure by using a lot of complex figures that might be simple to get from one angle, but very hard when trying to do it from other perspectives. Well, not this one. As you can see, this duck splits the foot into 2 parts, the head for the heel and the beak for the rest. Now, the original tutorial didn't have the little hat for the ankles, but I think that is really important, so I thought that I might add it. Now we can use this duck shape to get a good idea of the overall shape of the foot. Sometimes we can get so lost in the details and the complexities of a structure that this duck is exactly what we need to get the basic structure right. In fact, this is the part of the video where I should show you all the feet that I tried to draw and failed at drawing, but the duck was such a simple thing that I just got them pretty much right from the start. And I know you can see that I have a problem with the size of my toes, but we can talk about toes later. This just works. And I have to be honest, even after learning all the things from the other tutorials that I'm about to show you, I think that I'll always start drawing feet with the duck. Now listen, there are 2 things that we should consider about this duck. First, the head of the duck is not a ball, it's more like a blob, or maybe like the shape that some people give to rice, like an upside down bowl. And in some angles, the beak is super long, which really depends on the size of the foot that you want to draw. And 3, even though this is a great start, the shape of the beak doesn't really follow the shape of a foot 100%. But it is a great place to start and a fantastic tool to place the feet in space, which I bet that it is one of the biggest problems that we all have. And if you don't feel that the duck head helps you with that enough, I have a final tip at the end of the video for that. But even though the duck shape is super nice, that's not all there is to it. So now, basic shapes. So there's this great tutorial that caught my eye. This is by Jessie from Winged Canvas, and she has a great video about drawing shoes where she uses 4 shapes for the shoes. A ball for the ankle, a square for the heel, a triangle for the shaft, and rectangle for the toes. Now the crazy thing about her approach is that she moves the shapes around, but she doesn't really move them in space. Now this might work for most of the angles that we're going to use when we're looking at feet, but when trying other angles, it kind of falls apart. But if instead of 2D shapes, we use 3D shapes, that might work. So in 3D shapes, this would be a sphere for the ankle, a cube for the heel, and a doorstop for the rest of the foot. But what about the toes? Well, when Jessie's drawing shoes, she turns all of the toes into one big semicircle. And this is what I like the most, because I think that the semicircle sort of works better in every case. Because think about it, if we're talking about feet, you'll sort of want to move the toes, even if it's just a bit. And if you're planning on moving the toes, the arch of a semicircle is a lot more natural than just doing tiny rectangles for each toe. So using a semicircle to define the flow of how the toes move will give you more expressive toes in the end, which we totally want, or at least I do. And the doorstop is sort of hiding a secret, and I'll talk about it later. So we have the duck, and we have the basic shapes of the foot on top. Is this enough? Well, if you like very boring feet, yes, it is enough. But feet move. And in the end, having feet that feel alive is what we want to do. We don't want to draw boring feet, we want fun feet. So the next part is my favorite. So pay attention. Because I found 2 very different tutorials from 2 very different artists that talk about the same thing, but their approach is from very different points of view. One is the what, and the other one is the why. Jackie Druszko has a fantastic tutorial on feet and shoes, it is linked below, where she talks about drawing something that she calls a partial bottom. This is a very simple S shape on the sole of the shoe that gives our feet a very natural flow. It is what stops it from looking still or unnatural. And if you look at photos of feet, you will see that this partial bottom S feels natural, because it is. The tip of the foot always twists and moves more than the ankle does. You can see that by looking at the few examples that I worked on. Now, Jackie uses shoes and very stylized feet to show this, which look really great in her style, but I wanted to try these on feet. So if I started with the duck and worked that S shape into the beak of the duck, then I could use it to later work on more complex shapes on the foot. But why does this look natural? Well, Cynics explains why this is a good flow, and that is because of your ankle. The ankle shape with the inner parts of the bone on top allows your foot to move a lot more when moving it towards the inside. And when it can't move anymore, it tilts. And I know that you're moving your feet right now to see if this is true, and it is. So this flow shows where the feet have room to move. Here's a graphic that kind of shows what I'm talking about. So when you want your feet to move outwards, the partial bottom is going to be a lot more subtle. But when it moves inside, you can exaggerate it a lot more. So now that we know this, we can talk about the more complex shapes of the foot, which, as I said before, are all hidden in the doorstop. So let's talk about the more obvious one, that is the arch of the foot. When drawing a foot from its inner side, you always have to remember that there's an arch there. So depending on how realistic you want your feet to be, you have to consider that arch when drawing the partial bottom. Now, when looking at the feet from certain angles, it's very easy to use this arch to separate the foot in two parts. You just start from this part behind the big toe, and then make this line go up. And this is a very great way to symbolize the arch when it is not visible from certain angles. But why do we do this? Well, this is the final ingredient on the shape of the foot. That doorstop that I've been mentioning a lot, well, if we're going to get technical about it, it is not really a doorstop. Because all of the lines that descend from the ankle to the toe start here. The descent from this point is steeper from the inner side than it is from the outside. This helps a lot with stability. If we were to put the 2 feet together, both shapes would look a lot like a pyramid. So when drawing feet from different angles, always remember that the top part of the middle will always be on the inner side. So finally, toes. A lot of other tutorials explaining in this way, so I'm going to do just the same because it is true. All of the toes except for the big one are tiny 2-step staircases. The big one is just one big shape right here. But remember the semicircle that I mentioned, the one that I've been using on every sketch? Well, as I said before, I like them because not only does it give the toes a very natural flow, but it also gestures the arch of the movement that they make. Here I made a few examples. You see what I mean, right? Like, almost no one can move toes individually, so they move in a group. So no matter the direction that you're moving in, the shape of the toes as an overall group is going to resemble this curve. So that's why I'm using this semicircle to draw the toes. Now, I'm pretty sure that it feels that we've been through a lot. But did we really? Nah, it's easy. Duck, partial bottom, shapes, and toes. You got this. But wait, I did mention that I could help you place the feet on the ground a little bit easier, didn't I? Well, so what's the secret? The secret is very obvious because the secret is the ground itself. Whenever it is time to draw feet on the ground, just draw the ground so you can get a sense of the perspective. I know that it sounds dumb, but it really works. And if you want more dumb advices that work, how about this video about figuring out facial expressions with just one triangle? I promise that you'll love it, and it's right, I think that it's here, it's here.